everyone. I'm Sonia, and I'm here to talk to you about my knits for January. I am really into knitting toys, and I thought I would come to YouTube, and every month I've decided to do a little what I knit for the month, and like a little show and tell, and maybe inspire some other knitters to have a go. And the first one I want to show you here is called a Lottie doll, and she's my first knit I've completed for January. I've done 3 different knitted toys for the month of January 2018. So here we go, as a little show and tell for you. So like I said, this is called a Lottie doll, and the actual pattern is called Winter Heidi, and the pattern is by a lady named Deena Menard. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is on Ravelry, which is a site for knitters and crocheters. If you haven't heard of it, I suggest you go to Ravelry because it's a fantastic site. It's got thousands of patterns. Half of them are free, some you have to pay for. This one is a paid pattern, but she also does have a free pattern available for a basic Lottie doll. Yeah, so this is where I got the pattern from. So all the toys I'm showing you are either from Ravelry. If not, then I will state whether is a toy I knitted the pattern myself or I got it from somewhere else. I'll let you know. Okay, so this is my version of Winter Heidi. Now, I've knitted her with 8-ply yarn, which is 8 ply. It's the below the chunky style of yarn. It's between sport and chunky, so the one in the middle. It's knit on a 4mm double pointed needles throughout the whole item. So if you can't knit in the round on double pointed needles, I suggest you look up some YouTube tutorials and try to get a good handling on that, because a lot of toys are knit in the round, although you can get a lot that are knitted flat. You then have the worry of doing all the seams, and that's all extra work. So I do like toys that are knitted in the round a lot better. They seem a lot quicker and less fiddly. This little girl here she's turned out 57 centimeters long. So if you are in inches, I think that's around 22 inches. Around 22, 23 inches she is. She's a gorgeous little doll. She's the first doll pattern I've ever knitted, and I highly recommend Deena's patterns if you're looking for a doll to knit. It was extremely straightforward, easy to follow. There was nothing in the pattern where I thought, oh, I don't know what she means. It's a really good pattern, so I highly suggest it. Now, just a few details about mine. Now, the little jumper, like, you knit her entire body first. I've actually sewn her skirt on because it was slightly loose. But you knit her entire body, and then you knit the clothes for her as well. Now, her little sweater here, if I knit it again, I think I'd cast on a little less stitches, just 3 or 4 stitches less. I used double 2 pieces of yarn held together, like doubled, and knit them on the same size needle, I think. Or was it a size up? It could have been a size up. But in the pattern, she's actually supposed to have long sleeves, but I got a bit lazy and couldn't be bothered doing long sleeves, so I just made her sleeves short. She has these cute little mittens, which I kind of like. It's look like that, and she's got little thumbs, and they're really, really cute addition. They're like the fingers, I guess, are out. They're like fingerless mittens. That's really cute. The skirt took the longest to knit, but I really like the way it's turned out. It's nice and flary. It's got a bit of a pattern in it. The yarn turned out really nice. Now she does come with a pair of bloomers that you can also knit for her, or pants, whatever you want to call for them, for underneath her skirt, but I didn't bother with that. And I guess the best thing I like about her is her little boots. Turned out really well, and even though they look hard to do, they're actually quite simple. And of course the little pom-poms on there. And then I have made curly hair for her. And to make curly hair, what I do is I use wooden dowels, and I wrapped straight acrylic yarn right around the dowels, really tight. Then I wet them with hot water so that they're soaking with hot water, and then I bake in the oven at very low temperature for about 45 minutes. Does the trick, and you get this lovely curly hair. With my winter Heidi, I decided to needle felt her eyes. So they are bits of, I guess you call it mohair roving, I think it's called. And I needle felted her eyes, and in doing so, that's how you get the dents in the face. So I'll just give you a close up, which kind of gives her a nose. Gives her a bit of a profile there when you're jabbing with your needle to felt the eyes in. It also makes the indents at the same time. And I didn't feel like doing a mouth. I just left her without a mouth, the poor thing. But I quite like the way she looks. So that was my first knit for January 2018. So again, that pattern is on Ravelry. It is by Deena, Menard, and the pattern is called Winter Heidi. Okay, I'll just pop her to the side. On to my second knit of January is a Viking doll. Now, I love the TV show called Vikings. Followed the whole series, and I just had to make myself a Viking doll, my own little Ragnar Lothbrok. And this one here, I'll just use my notes here. I've got notes on him. He's a bit of a mix-up. Now, there is a pattern called, again on Ravelry, called Magnus Ragnar, the Victorious Viking. And he is inspired by that pattern, but I haven't followed that pattern completely. I found it a little bit hard to understand, and again, a little bit lazy to look up. I think there was video tutorials that came out with the pattern, but I was too lazy to look at them. So I decided to make him up as I went. Now, I used the same head as in the Lottie doll pattern, so his head is the same as that, and I used the same body pattern, and I really made it a bit bigger, and I really stretched it out so he's nice and solid in the body. Now, the Magnus Ragnar Victorious Viking pattern is where I got his beard and moustache idea from. This one you'll see is I've made it a bit pointier, and it kind of rolls up at the bottom, which I really love. It does that all by itself, and I like the look of it. I gave him a couple of plaits for underneath his helmet here, and of course the Viking horns. Basically made up my own feet for him. This tassels here, again inspired by the Victorious Viking pattern, and his feet are inspired by that as well, but I just made them up as I went along. Same with his legs and his arms. I've knitted them flat. They're not actually rolled. They're not actually round and stuff. They're actually flat, so you can spread them out like this, but they naturally curl in. So if you have a look at the back, they just curl in like that. And of course then I crocheted a belt for him, and I found these little metal bits in my craft room. I can't even remember what they were from, and I thought they looked excellent as a Viking belt. But yeah, so if you are after a Viking, Magnus Ragnar, the Victorious Viking, is a good pattern to go by, and you can incorporate really any doll body you want to make your Viking. So this was my second knit for January. Oh, I've also added, he's got some weight in his bottom to help him sit. I've weighted him with some plastic pellets in his bottom, which kind of makes him sit a bit better. Then my third and last project for January 2018 is my own little creation. This here is Stinky Pete. I'll put him up close. There he is. Or also known as the Prospector, and he's from Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2, yes. And he's one of my favourite characters on Toy Story 2. And he's actually really hard to get toys of Stinky Pete, so I really wanted to knit this little fella. Now he is about 7.5 inches tall, and he's been knit all with 8-ply yarn on 3.25 needles. And for his body and his head, I actually used a pirate panda pattern. That's what it's called, and it's by Amy Gaines, and it's basically just a round circular body and a circular head. I'm pretty new to knitting toys, so I kind of needed a refresher on how to make like ball shapes, I guess. So that's a pattern that I used, and I altered it a little bit because the panda's head is a lot bigger. So I made his head a bit smaller on my Stinky Pete. The panda came with a pirate hat, and I knitted it exactly as the pattern suggested. However, I sewed it into shape so that it would be more like Stinky Pete's hat. And I have needle felted round little balls, and then needle felted them straight onto the head to make his eyes. I made my own nose, moustache and beard. Moustache and beard you can use like a Santa pattern if you can find one. There's many of them. You should be able to find one. Once you've knitted a beard and a moustache, it's pretty easy to know how to do it afterwards. So I just made it up and put that on, and then of course I did his little eyebrows, which are just a couple of rows of stitches really with increases. Gave him his little necktie, his little braces, and he's not actually finished. I do got to do some red sleeves for his arms on here and little hands. I don't think I'll worry about doing little legs, because Stinky Pete's, because he's quite a chubby fella, his legs would be very small, and being so small he wouldn't be able to stand up any while if I did that. So I'm going to leave the feet off and just add some arms, I think. So that's my Stinky Pete. So these are the 3 items I have knitted for January 2018. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope you're a little bit inspired. And it's my plan to hopefully every month, at the end of the month, come back and show you what I've created for that month. I can't guarantee you that every month there'll be 3 projects. You know, sometimes I might have only knitted the 1 item, or other months I might have knitted 5 items. It all depends, you know, how it is. Sometimes you start a project and then you get carried on with a different project and another project, and then before you know it, you've got all these unfinished projects. But it is my plan to try and finish at least 1 or 2 projects every month, so I can show you here on YouTube. They will all be toys, or softies if you want to call them that. And I hope you follow my site and keep up to date with my knitting. So happy knitting, and if you've got any further questions about any of these patterns that I used or altered, or you know, any patterns about any questions about Ravelry, or even if you knit toys yourself, I'd love to hear from you. Have a great day, everyone, and happy knitting. Bye.